So picture this scene for a second. It is 2016, and we are in New York City.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right, so a woman walks out of a fitness studio, and it's this really foggy, brisk night. She's actually just taken her first ever indoor cycling class.
Oh, wow, her first one.
Yeah, very first one. And suddenly, right there on the sidewalk, she just stops. She drops her face into her hands and starts to laugh. And I don't mean like a little chuckle. I mean a deep, overwhelming laugh.
Like a real belly laugh.
Exactly. She later describes feeling this literal, what she calls a blue light, surge from her toes all the way up to her fingertips.
A blue light?
Yeah, blue light. And in that split second, she has this moment of absolute clarity.
Yeah.
Like she knows she is going to teach cycling to the world, and she's going to do it on the biggest platform imaginable.
I mean, that is just a deeply cinematic moment. It's like this flash of total certainty in a life that up until that point had probably felt pretty, disconnected or confusing.
Totally. And that is exactly where we are starting today. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping into some really powerful excerpts from fitness powerhouse Tunde Oyenin's book, Speak.
It's a fantastic book. Really rich source material.
It really is. And I'm looking right at you listening today because you are probably bombarded with all this pressure, to have a perfect, predictable 5-year plan.
Oh, absolutely. The culture just beats that into us.
Right. The whole cultural narrative tells us to map every single thing out. But today, we are going to look at how a life actually gets built when that map is just completely thrown away.
Yeah, and the core theme of our deep dive today is really exploring how embracing uncertainty is, it's actually what unlocks possibility.
Right.
We're going to navigate the sources using this framework that basically defines Tunde's life, which is also the title of her book. The acronym is SPEAK.
Surrender, power, empathy, authenticity, and knowledge.
Exactly. But, we aren't just going to tick these off like a checklist. The text gives us a chance to look at the underlying psychological and emotional mechanisms here, like how a person actually puts these concepts into practice in real life.
And building that kind of power really requires finding out who you actually are, like underneath the armor you wear every day, which is where authenticity starts.
Yeah, that first pillar.
Right. And reading the sources, Tunde's armor started building up incredibly early, specifically around her body.
Yeah, the sources detail how she really struggled with her weight from a very young age. There's this vivid memory from when she was in 3rd grade.
Oh, the weight guessing thing.
Yeah. Her classmates are all comparing weights, as kids do, and she confidently announces she weighs 116 pounds. And the other kids literally gasp in shock that she's in the, quote, hundreds.
Kids are just brutal. I mean, they really are. But that external judgment, it starts to internalize.
It always does.
Fast forward a bit to when she's age 14. She's a size 18, and she's shopping for a bridesmaid dress for her auntie's wedding.
Uh-oh, this story is it's rough.
It is. She's in this bridal store, and her auntie points to a dress that Tunde describes as this hideous boat neck, cobalt blue satin dress with capped sleeves.
So not a great look.
She absolutely hates it. But, she asks the clerk for her size anyway, and the clerk flat out tells her the dress only goes up to a size 12.
Which is just a crushing moment for a 14-year-old girl.
Completely. But her mother refuses to let her hide. Instead of finding a different, more accommodating dress for everyone, her mother actually buys 2 size 12 dresses.
2 of them.
Yes, 2 size 12 dresses, and she sews them together so Tunde can fit into
She
them.
literally sews them together.
Yeah, so Tunde can, as she put it in the book, look exactly as ugly as everyone else.
Which is a funny line, but man, the reality of that is just heartbreaking.
It really is. She realized in that moment she was actively making herself smaller to avoid judgment. She was taking her vibrant, extroverted personality and just shrinking it.
Right. She stopped laughing loudly. She stopped dancing at parties.
Exactly. She was so terrified her weight would make her stand out for the wrong reasons, so she just muted her entire existence.
And that fear of standing out, that dictates the path so many people take. When you shrink your physical presence, you often shrink your psychological footprint as well. You stop volunteering ideas. You stop asserting boundaries.
Okay, so let's unpack this for a second, because reading through the sources, there's a pivot in her early career that honestly kind of caught me off guard.
Oh, with the makeup.
Yeah. She eventually finds her confidence and builds her professional life entirely around a makeup. She becomes this highly successful national makeup trainer. But wait, isn't makeup inherently about, putting on a mask?
Right, that's the common assumption.
Yeah. So how does hiding behind foundation and concealer fit into finding your true, authentic self?
Well, what's really fascinating here is how Tunde entirely reframes the psychology of makeup in the text. For her, it wasn't about hiding at all. It was actually an act of profound vulnerability.
Vulnerability. How so?
Think about it. When someone sits in a makeup chair, they are letting a total stranger see them up close, barefaced, with all their perceived flaws completely exposed.
Oh, I guess that's true. You're completely bare in that moment.
Exactly. She realized her job wasn't just painting faces, it was facilitating a bridge between how someone feels on the inside and how they present themselves to the world.
There are actually two stories in the text that highlight this mechanism perfectly.
Yeah. The first one is about a young woman named Lacey.
Right.
Lacey came in with her mother, and she was going through chemotherapy, so she had lost her eyebrows.
Oh, man.
And Tunde spent 3 hours with her. 3 hours. She didn't push a bunch of products. She literally just taught Lacey how to draw her eyebrows back on so she could reclaim, a piece of her joy and get some agency back over her own face.
That is so powerful.
Yeah.
And then there was the story with the transgender client.
Right. Yes. A client came in pacing around, super nervous, just asking for a little bit of concealer.
Just dipping a toe in.
Exactly. And slowly, Tunde built up that trust, adding a bit more, evening out the skin tone until she had actually done a full face of makeup.
Yeah.
And for that 1 hour, the client got to see their true self reflected in the mirror. Tunde noted this incredible physical shift, like their shoulders rolled back, their chin lifted.
It's amazing.
Now, the client wiped it all off before going back to work. But for 60 minutes, their external presentation finally matched their internal reality.
So authenticity isn't about rejecting aesthetics at all. It's about aligning your outside with your inside so your nervous system can finally just relax.
Exactly. It's about that alignment.
But, once you know your internal truth, you have to navigate how you let others interact with it. Which brings us to the next pillar, empathy.
Empathy, yeah.
And the sources show what happens when empathy operates without any guardrails. I mean, the story of her 5-year relationship with her ex-boyfriend, Brian, is a really tough read.
It is. So, Brian was an aspiring actor who had lost his job. But instead of looking for a new one, he spent his days just playing video games in Tunde's apartment.
Well, she worked incredibly long hours to support them both.
Right, and she just kept making excuses for him.
She felt bad because he had difficult upbringing.
Right, exactly. And even after she finally broke up with him, she let him stay in her apartment rent-free for 3 months. Just because she didn't want him to feel abandoned.
Which is wild to me. And how does he repay this? After he finally moves out, she starts noticing things in her apartment are just slightly out of place.
Creepy.
Very. She comes back from a work trip early one day, walks into her dark apartment, and finds Brian just sitting on her couch watching the National Geographic Channel.
Oh my gosh.
He had secretly breaking in with a credit card for months.
That's just a huge violation. And the text actually contrasts this sharply with her friend Tiffany.
Right. Tiffany's situation was much darker.
Yeah. Tiffany was trapped in a violently abusive marriage. There's this terrifying altercation detailed where Tunde and her new boyfriend physically rescued Tiffany from an Uber. The husband was literally smashing Tiffany's head into the car window.
Jesus.
Tunde called 911. The husband got arrested. But then, and this is the part that's so hard to read, Tiffany went back to him. She even defended him in court.
It's like an autoimmune response, you know? Your empathy is this biological mechanism that's meant to heal and connect, but when it gets confused, it starts attacking your own peace.
That's a really good way to put it.
It's like pouring water into a cracked glass. You're giving everything you have to fix someone, but they're still empty, and now you're the one dying of thirst.
Wow. Yeah, exactly.
So what does this mean for you, the listener? Are we supposed to just harden up and stop being empathetic entirely?
No, the takeaway here is understanding the critical difference between empathy and enabling. Empathy without self-preservation is essentially self-destruction.
Right.
Tunde realized she was using her empathy to excuse Brian's unacceptable behavior. She had to hold a mirror up to herself and see that her endless grace for him was actually keeping him stagnant.
Just like she wished she could hold a mirror up to Tiffany to show her the reality of the abuse.
Precisely. True empathy requires you to be the gatekeeper of your own peace first, because if you don't secure your own foundation, you will both collapse.
But sometimes, no matter how carefully you secure that foundation and set all those boundaries, they get shattered anyway by forces totally out of your control.
Yeah, life happens.
And that is where we see what real power actually is, the PFS, and speak. Specifically, finding power inside unimaginable grief.
The sources outline a devastating turning point here. The sudden loss of Tunde's youngest brother, Tope. He was only 19 years old.
19. Unbelievable.
And he died suddenly while just sitting upstairs in his room watching The Dark Knight with his girlfriend.
The backstory makes it even more agonizing, too, because not long before this, Tunde had actually been a contestant on the game show Deal or No Deal.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, she won $100,000 and a Ford Flex. And she used some of that money to help buy Tope this giant, ugly Buick Century that he really wanted.
Why a Buick Century?
Well, she did it because two of her friends had just died in a car crash, and she was hyper aware that life was short. She just wanted to make him happy. But he only had that car for a month before he passed away.
That is just gut-wrenching. And the grief was heavily compounded by their cultural traditions, too.
Right. The family is Yoruba.
Yes, an ethnic group from Nigeria. In their culture, parents are not supposed to attend the burial of their own children.
Which is hard to even wrap your mind around.
It is. So while her parents stayed home, enveloped by the elders of their community, Tunde and her older brothers had to handle the funeral themselves. She essentially had to parent her own parents through the absolute worst moment of their lives.
The eulogy, man. Her 7-year-old nephew, Silas, stood up and delivered this heartbreaking eulogy to Tope, whom he didn't even call uncle. He always just called him his best friend.
A 7-year-old, just devastating.
I honestly struggle with this part of the narrative because it feels almost impossible to ask someone in the depths of that kind of trauma to suddenly manifest power.
Yeah, it sounds like too much.
It borders on toxic positivity, right?
Yeah.
Like, just find the strength. How does she avoid that trap? How do you actually find power when you're burying a 19-year-old?
Well, she avoids the toxic positivity trap by not pretending the pain isn't destroying her. Power in this context isn't about having control or, like, putting on a brave face for everybody.
So what is it?
Power is the sheer resilience forged inside the pain. During that impossible time, Tunde relied on a psychological mechanism she calls artifacts of strength.
Artifacts of strength. Okay, explain how that works practically.
So, when your own nervous system is entirely overwhelmed by panic and grief, you can't always generate your own strength, right?
They're just empty.
Exactly. So you borrow it. She drew on memories of her parents' own immigrant struggle. She visualized her parents walking miles for water back in Nigeria and how they survived by just putting one foot in front of the other, left foot, right foot.
Just pure endurance.
Right. She had stored up these inherited memories of resilience, and she pulled from that external reserve to bypass her immediate panic.
That's incredible.
The lesson there is we don't choose what happens to us, but we absolutely can choose which artifacts we hold on to when we are forced to react. Power is choosing to endure, step by literal step.
Borrowing survival mechanisms from the past to get through the present minute. That is so profound. But, you know, it's a cruel irony that once you forge that kind of hard-won resilience, the universe often tests it by slamming the door on your ultimate dream.
Oh, it always does.
Let's circle back to that blue light vision from the very beginning of the show.
Yes. So when she had that vision of teaching cycling to the world, she was actually miserable in her career.
Right, as the makeup trainer.
Yeah, she was highly successful, driving a fancy car, living in Hollywood, but her cortisol levels were constantly spiked because she just dreaded waking up every single day.
She felt completely empty. So she takes this massive pay cut to start teaching cycling part-time at a place called the Sweatshop in LA.
And it actually works.
It does. Her friends, Christy and Max, they affirm this wild dream. Eventually, she gets a direct message from Cody Rigsby at Peloton asking her to audition.
The biggest platform imaginable.
Exactly. She flies to New York, crushes the audition, and thinks, this is it. The blue light vision is coming true.
But then comes the rejection.
Right.
Weeks later, Cody emails her to say Peloton is not moving forward. She is totally devastated, and her imposter syndrome just takes over immediately.
What does she think the reason is?
She assumes it's because her arms are, quote, too muscular. Or maybe she's too old. She regresses right back to that 14-year-old girl in the bridal shop making herself small.
See, here's where I want to push back on the traditional success narrative we always hear. Usually, the hero has a vision, they take a massive leap of faith, then that magically appears, and they win.
Right, the fairy tale ending.
But here, she takes the leap and just hits the concrete. A firm, undeniable no. How do you not just completely give up on your life's calling when reality hits you that hard?
Well, you surrender. That's the S in speak. But we really have to define what surrender actually means psychologically here.
Okay, what does it mean?
Surrender isn't quitting. It is accepting the detour without letting it destroy your core identity. The text mentions Tunda attending a workshop by a woman named Deborah Bryant that fundamentally shifts her mindset.
What did she teach her?
Deborah suggested this brilliant reframe. If you hate your job, but you want to pursue a passion, stop looking at your day job as a prison. Treat the job you hate as the funder of your side hustle.
Oh, wow. That is a brilliant psychological pivot.
Yeah.
You aren't trapped by your employer. They are unknowingly acting as the angel investor for your actual dream.
Exactly. And when you make that mental shift, your daily desperation evaporates. You stop walking into auditions needing that one specific job to validate your entire existence.
That makes so much sense.
Winning isn't always about achieving the final outcome on the exact timeline you demanded. Sometimes winning is knowing you put out your absolute best effort in the present moment while allowing the universe to handle the timing. She had to surrender her absolute attachment to Peloton being the only way the dream could manifest.
And because she surrendered that desperation, she kept teaching, right? She kept honing her craft.
Yeah.
And almost a year later, Cody Rigsby reaches out again.
Yep, the second chance.
And when that second chance comes, it requires all the knowledge, the authenticity, and the resilience you've built up to actually meet the moment. The K in speak. Knowledge.
The timing had finally aligned. She passes the second audition, she gets the job, and she moves to New York.
She's finally on the platform.
She is, but shortly after she arrives, the murder of George Floyd happens.
Right. And the sources outline how profoundly this impacted her, dragging up her own traumatizing history.
Yeah, the sources describe her recalling an incident from when she was a teenager. She and her brother Tosin were pulled over in their own neighborhood.
Just driving home.
Right. And 4 police cars surrounded them. They were handcuffed and forced to sit on the curb while police searched her car. The officers falsely claimed they smelled weed.
Oh, what did they actually find?
All the police pulled out was a bag of coins.
Unbelievable.
So she knew the visceral terror of being targeted simply for the color of her skin. It was deeply personal.
Faced with a nation in trauma, she decides she cannot just get on a stationary bike and teach a bubbly, lighthearted fitness class. So she decides to lead what became known as the Speak Up Ride.
And she makes some very deliberate, heavy choices for this ride.
Very heavy.
Yeah.
She starts the playlist with J. Cole's song, Trouble, and she explicitly tells the 22,000 people riding with her live that usually she uses music to distract from physical discomfort, but today she is using it to intentionally inflict pain.
She demanded that they sit in the intense discomfort of racial injustice.
But I have to ask, why risk it? She finally gets her dream job. She is on this massive corporate platform. Why would she risk alienating a brand new audience by intentionally making them uncomfortable?
Well, it comes back to the knowledge she had acquired over a lifetime. She realized, and she says this, the pain of saying nothing is worse than the pain of saying the wrong thing.
Wow. The pain of saying nothing is worse.
Exactly. What she did was apply the mechanics of bridging 2 worlds. Growing up in Houston, she attended 2 churches every Sunday, a quiet, predominantly white church and a vibrant, loud African church.
All right, so she knew how to speak to both.
She knew how to navigate the emotional landscape of both spaces perfectly, and she realized her unique purpose was to act as a bridge for her riders.
She didn't want to just preach to the choir. She wanted to reach the person who was deeply uncomfortable.
She applied the knowledge that true leadership requires immense vulnerability. Authenticity isn't just expressing yourself, it is the intersection of trust and truth. She trusted that if she held space for the discomfort and led with absolute truth, people would stay on the bike.
And they did.
They really did. That ride became one of the most attended live classes in their history.
The intersection of trust and truth. I mean, we have covered some profound ground today. We traced the roadmap of a woman who went from crying in a dressing room over a cobbled-together bridesmaid dress, shrinking her personality, to commanding 22,000 people to confront injustice on a stationary bike.
It's an incredible trajectory.
And the wild irony of her story, she became globally famous, specifically for her strong, muscular arms.
The exact thing she was insecure about.
The exact physical trait she spent her life trying to hide from the world.
It just goes to show, uncertainty is not a threat to your future. It is the raw material for possibility. You listening right now, you do not need a perfect map to your calling. You just need to trust your gut, endure the detours, and keep driving.
Think about the armor you wear. We spend massive amounts of energy curating our lives, biting our tongues, and hiding our true opinions just to fit neatly into the rooms we walk into. But what if the exact things you are most afraid to show the world are the very things the world is desperately waiting for you to share? What if your blue light is waiting right on the other side of your armor?